Azure Synapse Analytics brings together data integration, data warehousing, and the big data analytics under an umbrella, dramatically reducing the time to build an analytical solution, accelerating the time to insight. Now you do not need to create multiple services and stitch together to perform all these activities. Hello everyone, myself Sarnendu. Let's start. Now let's see how Azure Synapse brings together data integration, data warehousing, and the big data analytics. This is the Synapse Analytics. Let's start with the data integration. As you can see in the image, for data integration, Synapse Pipelines allows data integration and orchestrate the activities like copy activity and the data flow activities for the transformation. It also enables ETL and the ELT job. As you can see in the image, it can ingest the data from on-premise, cloud, SaaS application and the streaming sources. Next, data warehousing in the Synapse. SQL engines enables us to build data warehouse in the Synapse by creating dedicated SQL pool. Now big data analytics in Synapse. Here you can see three different analytical runtimes. SQL engines allows us to explore, preparation, transform the data by using serverless or the dedicated scalable compute resource. Apache Spark enables the big data analytics by using a notebook or the job. Data Explorer for log and time series analytics. At last, it loads the transform data in the data warehouse in the required format to be consumed by BI and the ML application, because Synapse has deep integration with Power BI and the Azure ML. So Synapse allows us to ingest data using data integration, explore, preparation and transform the data using SQL and Apache Spark pool, and load the data in the SQL data warehouse, and subsequently it manage and serve the data for BI and the ML application. So we can perform data integration, data warehousing and the big data analytics in this workspace, which accelerates the time to insight. To work with the Azure Synapse Analytics, Synapse provides a workspace called Synapse Workspace. It is a collaboration boundary or the security boundary for doing data integration, data warehousing and the big data analytics. Synapse Workspace is attached to a specific region and associated with data like Gen2 and the container. Now let us create the Synapse Workspace. Now I have logged into the Azure portal. To create the Synapse Analytics, let us search by Synapse. Under the services, we have to select Azure Synapse Analytics. To create the Synapse Analytics, either we can click this one plus create button, or we can click the create Synapse Workspace button. Let us click this option. Let us click create Synapse Workspace. So to create the Synapse Workspace, we have to fill the basics tab. In the basic tab, first we have to select the subscription. Pay as you go is by default selected. We have to provide the resource group, which is mandatory. Let us give a name Synapse RG. Here after that we have manage resource group. Manage resource group is a container which holds the ancillary data of the workspace. This is not mandatory field, but for the tracking purpose, let us give a name Synapse Manage Resource Group. After that we have to provide the workspace name, which is mandatory field. Let us give a name Demo Synapse Workspace 101. Next we have to select the region. For the Synapse Workspace, we have to select a region where source data and the destination store coexist, co-located, so that performance improved. Otherwise, if the Synapse Workspace source data and the destination store located in different region, then there will be performance issue. Performance will be degraded. So as a best practice, Synapse Workspace source data and the destination store should be in a single region. Every Synapse Workspace is attached to a region. Now let us select the data lake Gen2 storage. Synapse Workspace needs data lake Gen2 account to store the metadata and the catalog data. Here either we can select the existing account or we can create a new one. Here let us create a new data lake Gen2 account. Demo Synapse account 101. Next we have to select the file system name. File system name is nothing but the container. So let us create one. Demo container. Next it is saying assign myself the storage blob data contributor role on the data lake storage Gen2 account to interactively query in the workspace. That means Synapse Workspace needs storage blob data contributor role on the data lake Gen2 account to read and write the data in the storage account. By default this is checked. So when this workspace will be created, workspace will have the permission to read and write the data in the Gen2 account. So to create the Synapse account, region and the data lake Gen2 account is mandatory. Now let us go to the security tab. In the security tab, we can see the authentication. This authentication is required to access the dedicated SQL pool. Here we have the two authentication method. Either we can use both local and the Azure AD authentication, or we can use only the Azure AD authentication method. Here see, SQL Server admin login is given by default, SQL admin user, but password is not given. So to create the Synapse Workspace, these authentication details are not mandatory. We can update this later after creation of the workspace. Now let us go to the networking tab. In the networking tab, we can enable the manage virtual network option so that our Synapse workspace will be remain within the Synapse manage virtual network. That means will be within the private network. So by default this is disabled. If we enable it, we have to provide this option also. So for the demo, let us keep this option as disabled. For the beta security purpose, we have to select this manage virtual network option. Here in the firewall rules, it is saying Azure Synapse Studio and other client tools will only connect to the workspace endpoint if this setting is selected. It is saying about this option. By default, this is selected. This option is required so that Azure Synapse Studio can connect to the workspace endpoint. For encrypted connection, Synapse Analytics applies TLS 1.2 encryption protocol. By default, TLS 1.2 is selected. Now let us review and create it. Here you can see in the summary section, this is saying serverless SQL estimated cost per TB is this Indian currency. So when you create a Synapse workspace, by default a serverless SQL pool is created. So here estimated cost is amount of data processed by the SQL query. That's why the estimated cost is per terabyte data per TB, this Indian currency. Now let us create the Synapse workspace. Now the deployment is in progress. Now Synapse workspace is created. Let us go to the resource group. Under the Synapse resource group, two services created. One is storage account and another is the Synapse workspace. As part of the Synapse workspace creation, the storage account is created. Now let us go to the Synapse workspace. This is the overview tab of the Synapse workspace. Here you can see primary ADLS Gen 2 account is this one. This account we have just created, right? This is the file system name, demo container. This is the dedicated SQL point and this is the serverless SQL point. Within the Synapse workspace, we can create new dedicated SQL pool by clicking this option. We can also create dedicated SQL pool by going SQL pools under this analytical pools option. Here see, we can just click this button to create the dedicated SQL pool. Dedicated SQL pool. Once the Synapse workspace is created, it also create the built-in serverless SQL pool. It is auto scale, automatically scale based on the demand. So every workspace has only one serverless SQL pool and the name is built-in. But we can create multiple dedicated SQL pool by using these options by clicking the new option. Now let us go to the overview section. Here in the overview section, we can create the Apache Spark pool by clicking this option, new Apache Spark pool. We can also create Apache Spark pool by going to this option, Apache Spark pools under the same analytics pools. Here we can click the new button to create the Apache Spark pool. This is the interface to create the Spark pool. Here we can also reset our SQL admin password. So to work with the Azure Synapse Analytics, we have to open the Synapse Studio. In our next video, we will be opening this Synapse Studio and show what we can do with the Azure Synapse Analytics within the studio. Hope this video helps you. Thanks for watching.